Edit your damn scans. If you want to. Is that a good hook? Do you reckon that? Hi friends, there is a pretty decisive opinion in the film photography world about whether you should or should not, or even be allowed to or not allowed to edit your film scans. And hopefully this video will go some way to clear things up. You see, this is an unedited film scan, but even that was processed by the color science of my Sony. If I was to shoot with a Canon, it would be ever so slightly different. This video will have 3 sections. First, a little explanation of why I believe the no edits mindset is a little misinformed. Then I'm going to show you some edits that you should definitely be doing on all of your film scans, if you want to. And finally, a deeper dive into why a lot of these techniques have been around forever. If you were to just flip the negative, it would look very blue and faded. So every computer has its own algorithm to work out what are the real correct colors that it should look like. Problem is, every different scanner actually has its own opinion of what the correct colors should be. On a very extreme end of the scale, this is what Harman Phoenix looks like when scanned with a Frontier scanner, one of the most popular lab scanners around the world. And then this is what it looks like when it's scanned on a Noritsu. And for further comparison, this is what it looks like when it's scanned on a mirrorless digital camera and then flipped using Negative Lab Pro. So tell me, which one of these 3 is the unedited film scan? On top of that, your lab technician is going to be doing their very best to make your photos look as good as possible in the limited time they have, correcting color shifts on the green-purple, on the orange-blue, as well as exposure and contrast of your photos. So before you've even seen your film scans, they've been through a computer algorithm trained to try and make the photos look as good as possible, and then a real human editor giving their own human touch to the photos. By the time you get to them, they've been edited. So why not add your own touch to the photos? They are your photos after all. Now, as they are indeed your photos, you have every right to say, I don't want to edit them any further than I receive them. But to say they're unedited is to discredit the hard work of the lab technicians who are making your photos look as good as they are. If, however, you would like to learn a few basic corrections we can do to bring out the absolute best of the photos, keep watching. We're going to start with a black and white image, just for ease of learning, and then we'll get a bit more complicated as time goes on. Also, I will be using Lightroom because that's just the program that I use to catalog and edit my photos. This is 100% possible in Photoshop and even for free with a phone app like Snapseed. The first thing you need to know is that before the image even hits a human eyeball, the computer has to try and work out the correct exposure. And generally, they're a bit stupid. So if your shot is underexposed or has large black areas, the computer algorithm is going to lift the exposure up until it believes it is correct. But then you end up with these very muddy, disgusting blacks, which were supposed to be black, but the computer is a bit of an idiot. So let's head over to the computer and we'll start with the curves, which I know are very scary, but I'm going to break it down super simple, what you need to understand. On the left-hand side here, we have pure black. And then on the right-hand side, we have pure white. And all that dark area there is the data that's actually in your image. We can see quite quickly that there is no data at all before about 32. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring the point of the tone curve to start where the actual data begins. You can see already that's made a huge difference because I've told Lightroom now that the data in the image starts here. So now blacks are black. We can also move the white point to set the white point correctly. And image looks great. Here's a before and after. Looks fantastic. Now, if you don't want to use the curves, there is one other much easier way. We're going to head up to the regular light panel and just on the black and white sliders, if we hold Alt or Option, click and drag, as soon as the real blacks appear in the image, it'll be black on the screen. And the same for whites. Now from here, you can adjust the exposure a little bit. The black and white points are fixed, so that's great. And if you want to recover the highlights, that's totally fine too. And we'll explain why later on. That faded black look that we associate so much with film is not, in fact, the film look. It's just your underexposed photo being incorrectly interpreted by the scanning software. Now, if you want to keep it like that, that's an artistic choice, 100%, not a problem. but it's good to know these things anyway. Now we know that, we can move on to color film. Again, it's useful for underexposed shots with a lot of black. So for example, this photo here, I can just grab the point curve and move it over to where the data actually begins. And instantly we have saved the picture in half a second. Now to go one step further with color photos, because we've got red, green and blue channels, and you can see as I cycle through them that the data doesn't start and end in the same place on every channel. So now we can move the in and out points to each separate channel. Just set the blue in, blue out, green out, in. And very quickly, we have completely removed this faded and green color cast, which was shot because it was underexposed. It was actually expired film, and I was shooting through a window, which have a slightly green tint anyway. So big combination of bad stuff, but very quickly, by just adjusting the in and out points of the tones, we've saved the photo. Super fast. So we know a few things now. Let's put them into action really quickly. This is my workflow when I get scans back. First, I'm going to go into the image. I'm just going to set the black point. I'm going to set the white point. I'm going to say, ooh, it's a bit punchy. Contrast down a little bit. And then it feels like there's a bit of a cast, but I can't work out what it is. Let's check the tone curves. That looks fine. That looks fine. Ooh, yellows, finishing a bit early there. Let's bring it over a smidge. And I think with that before and after, we can see that done. Next photo. No, it's that fast. Let's look at one more before we get a little bit more complicated. So, next shot here. Nice shot, but color is a bit off. Now I'm just going to use auto white balance and see how it does. And it does pretty good. Now, I want the shot to be a little bit darker, but still I'm going to set the black point correctly. I'm going to make sure the white point is correct. And done. I'm very happy with that. Looks fantastic. Took 3.5 seconds. Edit your film scans, guys. It's that easy. At this point in the video, if you're still watching, you might be thinking, right, but these are all digital corrections. They didn't have that in the past. I want to keep my photos pure. Well, again, ignoring the fact that they are already edited when they were digitized, a lot of these modern techniques are direct descendants of traditional darkroom printing. I mean, Lightroom is a play on the word darkroom. When darkroom printing, you will use cyan, magenta, and orange gels of different intensities to color correct your prints, often going through multiple iterations before you are happy with the colors. Or happy enough, at least. Exposure is based mostly on how long you expose the photo to light. Contrast can be affected by the chemicals you use for development, the dilution, the pushing and pushing of your film, and even the paper that you choose can affect contrast, as well as saturation of your final image. So you see that a lot of these basic corrections that we do are in fact just the same things that people have been doing in the darkroom for many, many years. So what about a few more extreme changes? Well, welcome to part 3. Now you may have seen these images floating around the internet. The original image with all of the notes for the darkroom printer, and then the final image using all of that information, but done entirely in the darkroom, using masks. By covering and uncovering parts of the image while you're printing, you can have a direct effect on the brightness of various parts of your final photo. The masks that we use in Lightroom, etc., are direct parallels to that. For example, got a bit of cardboard. If I put this over half of the image while printing, that image will get no light and will be nothing, whereas the other side will have an image on it. If I only put it over it for half of the exposure and the other side for the full exposure, then that's going to be half as bright as that. Right, so basic explanation. Let's head back to Lightroom. So I've got this image here of a tram in Lisbon. And if I'm exposing and I'm exposing and I'm exposing this image, it's getting brighter and brighter and brighter, but the road's a bit too bright. So I'm going to put a bit of cardboard over that bit of the image for an amount of time, and then that part of the image will be less exposed than the rest. But the line is pretty hard. So if in this case I was to get the cardboard there and sort of wiggle it around while it's exposing. Now the edge is going to be more blurry, and it will get in Lightroom. The feathered edge effect comes from just wiggling your mask around. And you can see that that's the before, and then that's the after. And I've completely changed the focus of the image by using a little mask. Simple as. Now let's do one more thing, and that is cropping your image. This is strangely frowned upon by a significant amount of people in the community, and there are people who share the photos with their borders to kind of show that, look, I took the photo and I got it right in camera. And hats off to you. But you are allowed to crop. For example, there's this very famous photo of a Chihuahua with some lady's feet. But did you know that this was actually a very tight crop of the original negative? You see, even the greats of the past were not afraid to have a little crop if they felt it necessary. So you can too. For example, I've got this photo here that I took in a fish market in Izu. An octopus in a bag is probably smelling real ripe in there. But anyway, that little bit of trash I am not a fan of. So I'm just going to crop it into there, and no one can stop me. And I think that looks way better. So you can see that digitally altering your images in the way that I've shown today have been around largely since the beginning of darkroom printing. Of course, these days we can go a bit further. We have clone stamps. We've got content-aware fill. We've got AI tools to completely ruin your image if you want to. But exposure, color correction, contrast, masking, and cropping have been around forever. And you should not be scared to use them if you want to. If you want to keep it minimal as well, that's also fine. But if you feel like making some edits, your photography ancestors will not be mad at you. It's okay to edit your film. It's encouraged to edit your film. They're your photos. Make them look as good as you want them to. Thanks for watching.